feel like there needs to be a drum roll and explosions for this guest to come on because she is just so super awesome. Rachel Starr, how are you?
Hey, what's up? Hello, Gabe, and the Psych Central peoples.
The Psych Central peoples.
Peoples, yes, all the groups of the peoples.
I can tell that you are from the South because you have such really cool expressions like "peoples, y'all," and "y'all best get going." That's one thing that you said to me once at a conference. You're like, "We all best get going to supper," and I was like, "What happened?"
Does not sound like me at all.
That
does not sound like anything I would say, especially supper.
I am completely lying, but it's mostly true.
Yeah, I was gonna say that does not sound. Come on, y'all, let's get ready for supper.
See, there it is.
Yeah, yes.
Rachel is super honest, and she is super honest, and she is super awesome, and she does a lot of things. But one of the things that she does for Psych Central is she is the host of the podcast Inside Schizophrenia. Where'd you go? She left.
I know. I
was like, I did not mean to offend you. Just come. She didn't say supper. I apologize, y'all. But you're the host of the Inside Schizophrenia podcast. Rachel, what is the Inside Schizophrenia podcast?
So if you haven't checked it out yet, you totally should. But Inside Schizophrenia, obviously, is a podcast through Psych Central where me and my co-host, Gabe, who is, as you've met, we pretty much do this really cool about 45 minutes, 50 minutes podcast once every 2 months, and it is about schizophrenia, as the title is. And I'm the schizophrenic, and Gabe keeps me under control and like points me in the direction of the topic, right?
I do not point you in the direction of the topic because you live with schizophrenia. I point you in the direction of the topic because that's what a good co-host does. A good co-host is the unsung hero that keeps the host on track. But one of the things that I really like about the show, and Rachel and I do it together. Rachel is in charge, and you pick the subjects, you pick the topics, you pick the talking points, and you pick the guests. But what I really like about it is it's one of the few mental health shows that actually successfully combines the lived experience side, which is almost entirely Rachel, and the expert side. Medical doctors, whether it's caregivers, family members, friends. We've had police on the show before. So listen, I am involved, so I feel like I'm patting myself on the head and I feel a little guilty about that, but it's all structured and put together by Rachel to make sure that it really is a truly in-depth look into these topics about schizophrenia. So sincerely, I recommend that you check it out.
And I would say if you're out there and you're kind of on the line of checking it out, if you're like, especially if you're like, I don't have schizophrenia, why should I care? I just think in general, a really interesting podcast. I've learned so much just because I research each topic like so much, and it's blown my mind how much I've learned, not just about schizophrenia, but how the brain works. So especially if you're out there and you are a psychiatry kind of nerd, you'll definitely check out some of the episodes. We got some guys from Harvard, all these like really, really smart people, way smarter than me. And
I think, I'm not on the screen anymore. There we go. I do think that it's an incredible show, and I want to give full credit. All of the outlines, all of the guests, everything is laid out by Rachel. And I think that that's very, very powerful because what people in the schizophrenic community on all sides really are missing. Because I would say it's near and dear to your heart, but it's more important than that. It's literally your lived experience. Now, you do a great job with that, but that's not why you're on the show. You're on the show because you've been a successful YouTuber on the topic of schizophrenia for, I'm not trying to age you, but almost 15 years now.
Yeah, I'm old.
You're not old. You're 10 years younger than I am. Let's go all the way back to, we've got a young Rachel Starr, and you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, I have schizophrenia and I want a YouTube channel, and you decided to marry those two. Walk us through why you thought this was important, or was it just like a lark and you never thought it would go anywhere?
I started my YouTube channel doing crazy stunts, And it all came from this idea of, if you've ever saw the show Jackass, I didn't like it. But they had a spin-off of the show called Wild Boys. And I loved Wild Boys. And this is, 15 years ago in the way beginning ages of social media type. And there was an online show called Homestar Runner. And I was obsessed with that. So I was like, maybe I can make a stunt show online. This is when YouTube had first started. So I started filming myself, like doing stupid stunts. And it grew from there. About a year to 2 years into it, I decided to kind of, instead of just doing stupid stunts, open up about my real life, which was, at that time, I was dealing with having just been diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I hate to look back at those videos. Like, I just, this like nails on a chalkboard for me to have to watch, 21-year-old Rachel be so dramatic. Because at the time, being diagnosed with schizophrenia was completely brand new to me. And I don't want to say horrifying, but it was a lot to adjust to. Right. So looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, you're being so dramatic. You don't even know what bad is yet. Give it 3 years, child. But at the time, it was huge for me. And I just, from there on, I kept making videos. A few years later, I had electroconvulsive therapy. So I filmed that whole experience, and then I filmed follow-ups of me getting my memory back, and then some stuff like having to relearn. And it's just continued to expand between me documenting hallucinations, me getting to talk to other people with schizophrenia. It's just, 15 years of just documenting mental health.
And at one point, a few years ago, if I understand correctly, a college found your YouTube channel and realized that you had accidentally created this like decade-long video diary of schizophrenia. And you were very prolific. You had recorded a lot. And like you said, I know that all adults look back on themselves at 21 and think, what was I thinking? But to word that slightly differently, you had documented what it was like to be newly diagnosed with schizophrenia, and of course your opinions and thoughts on it all the way through as you kept going. Now, what became of that? Like, why were they so interested in it? What did they ask you? Because that's amazing.
I accidentally made one of the longest video documentations of someone going through schizophrenia, which pretty much hadn't really been done before outside of, hospitals and stuff keeping track, but not like this, and definitely not, the person telling their experiences. And I just accidentally did it. I wasn't trying to. And and I'm actually in a few different college books. So my poor students out there, you might be flipping through your psychology book, and then there's this whole part where I'm talking. Especially if you have like the ones that have videos embedded now, the online books, suddenly I'll pop up and you'll just be like, why is Rachel in my class?
And you didn't start off to do this. I think one of the most interesting parts of your story is that it wasn't intentional. I started my advocacy career on purpose, whereas you were just like, hey, I've got a YouTube channel, I'm being honest. And all of a sudden people sort of started to flock to you. How did that feel? Because it was not your goal. So was it overwhelming? Was it exciting? What was Rachel Starr thinking when this happened?
I knew what the word advocate meant, but I've never heard the word described for myself until just a few years ago. And it was kind of people outside of schizophrenia calling me that. And people reaching out and being like, wow, it's really great, all this work you do for schizophrenia. And I'm like, what? I don't do anything for schizophrenia. I'm like, I've just been documenting myself. And through that, it's been really cool that I've got to speak with other people with schizophrenia and like mental disorders would watch a video and be like, oh my gosh, the exact same thing happened to me. Oh my gosh, I have this exact delusion. And it was great because here I have this like weird delusion or something. And I think I'm the only one. And then I post a video about it and hundreds of people would reach out and be like, the exact same thing happens to me. And I was just like, it made me like feel so much better about myself. I was like, oh my God, I am not alone. And this thing that I think is embarrassing and weird, all these other people have the almost exact same thing or have went through a similar experience that I just never would have guessed. So in my mind, what I was doing, I wasn't trying to reach out and help others. I was just, when I first got diagnosed, there was nothing that I could find online other than like journal articles or like crazy One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest movies. And I just wanted to, hey, if someone Googles schizophrenia at some point, you know, on page 1067, there'll be this random YouTube video of a normal person who isn't, you know, drooling in the corner or serial killing people, and who isn't just a doctor reading a chart about somebody. So I never saw him. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, let's talk about that for a moment, because there is always this struggle, especially there's a struggle to get expert information out there and, of course, get lived experience information out there. Now, one of the advantages that expert information has is that it's generally, I say generally because it's not 100%, you know, please keep your thinking caps on, but professional information is generally vetted. It's generally agreed upon. It generally follows a scientific method. It's an entire medical industry has reviewed it. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't get it wrong or make mistakes, but it does have some sort of process so that you know that you can reasonably rely on the information. Now, over on the lived experience side, as you pointed out, you just started a YouTube channel and started saying stuff. There was no vetting. There was no anything like that. Now, I want to say that I believe that the lived experience perspective is extraordinarily valuable to know that you're not alone. And of course, we go through things that doctors don't understand, and this lets us become better advocates, become better patients, and get better medical care. But my specific question is what do you say to the people who write you letters and they're like, you have no right talking about schizophrenia, you're not a doctor, you don't have a degree, stop it?
I very rarely get them where they say that. Usually I get someone, and I've opened up my YouTube channel quite a bit about growing up religious and with all of this. And like I was put through an exorcism when I was 17. I have a lot more people messaging me, you don't have schizophrenia, and they'll have some like religious thing, you know, or you don't have schizophrenia, you're just believing what those doctors tell you. And there is no arguing with these people. It's kind of the opposite of science. People being like, no, you see into the spirit realm. No, that's Satan, you know, and I'm like, so that's cool to think I'm full of goblins, but I have a brain disorder, you know, and it is kind of, the more vocal people are the ones who are against that this is something I was born with or something like that, which is odd because I don't know. I don't have cancer. I've never had cancer, but I don't think people with cancer probably get those type of emails, but they might.
I know that we're learning more and more in all fields of medicine, not just mental health, but in all fields of medicine that we do need to start taking into account the patient experience, because one, there's just a lot of data to glean there. If every single patient feels a specific way or has a specific, we understand the idea of if every patient has a specific reaction, we might have to recall a drug, right? We get that. But if all of the patients feel some way or are scared, I think that there's really good data to mine there, because if somebody is scared to take a medication, they may not take it. And if the pharmaceutical industry, if the research industry, if the medical industry isn't taking that into account, they can't find ways to help patients understand those fears or build better medicines that remove whatever is causing that fear. Because legitimately, treatment is difficult. It's hard. But the patient voice is abused sometimes. And I hate to bring it back around to that, but what are your thoughts on people who are saying publicly with authority as a pseudo professional some of the things that you just discussed?
I kind of ignore them.
What advice do you have for like the population?
It's funny though, because people will email me. I think I got one where they were sending me the link to this personality disorder, and they were like pretty much saying, this is you know, this internet sleuth who was diagnosing me. And I did respond. I was like, you know, you see a very small part of my life. I tend to trust the doctors who I've met in person, who have diagnosed me. And I'm actually incredibly open, where if people ask, I'll show them, or I'll like send them my edited version, of course, without my personal info. But like different tests and things I've had. I posted online a few weeks ago from one of my last Psych visits just because it was humorous, where they wrote down attitude and they put sarcastic in giant letters. I just thought it was humorous. Like, that's an odd thing to put down. Okay, cool. But I'd want to be open because medical stuff is important. And it isn't just, yeah, hey, I read this Wikipedia article. Hey, I Googled this for 10 minutes. Let me diagnose you. And in life, that's what so many of us have around us. I get a cold, I'm sniffling. Yeah, I am going to go to WebMD and see, what type of debilitating illness I've gotten, what, version of COVID I've now picked up for my one sniffle I had of allergies. But, people like to diagnose ourselves and they like to diagnose other people when there are professionals who are out there for a reason and can spend more than watching you for a few minutes online.
What advice do you have for people that are listening, watching, reading influencers? Like what would you like them to know? What are like 3 things to keep in mind to judge if you should listen to somebody? What's something that you should? I mean, just because like you said, the internet is just so incredibly vast, and even WebMD, which we look to with authority, I've noticed that whenever my father gets the sniffles, he always ends up at cancer. He starts off with runny nose and he just keeps clicking until he's positive. Mm-hmm. So obviously the advice that I have for my father is, listen, you need to have a doctor diagnose you. You need to stop relying on that's like really good advice. And we're starting to get better at not listening to Dr. Google. What advice do you have in the mental health field to correctly use resources like the Rachel Stars of the world?
And well, first I'll say that, as you stated, Gabe, but this has been my lived experience. So I always try and be really careful when it comes to like giving advice, because I'm not in that person's shoes. To me, it might sound 100% like you have schizophrenia like I do. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, so I don't need to be the one telling you, oh, hey, it sounds like you have schizophrenia. I'll right away say you need to write everything down that you're telling me, and you need to go talk to a professional who will probably get a better diagnosis for you than just me being like, oh, hey, yeah, no, I totally had that hallucination too. Blood brothers.
It kind of sounds like what you're saying is that if somebody online diagnoses you, you probably should not rely on them for anything else, because
unless it's a medical type, we have so much now of like Zoom doctor meetings. So I don't want to say online and knock out, I did online counseling a few weeks ago for the first time. So I don't mean anybody, but I would say don't trust YouTube videos. Don't trust, somebody's live Facebook rant about, fixing your life. Because nobody, and this goes across for nobody is going through the exact same thing you are. You take little pieces, but
one of the things that I love most about you, Rachel, aside from the fact that you are very, very honest, you have, forget about being a mental health advocate for a moment, you have the coolest job of anybody that I know. You are a stunt woman, like a legitimate stunt woman. And before we have you talk about this, we have actually prepared. Like how I said that, we have prepared one of Rachel's stunt reels to display. Now, Rachel will sort of narrate. We'll talk over it because there will be no sound. So please don't email me that you can't hear it. You will only hear our beautiful voices. But Rachel, we need you to tell us what's going on in this video, and I'm gonna pop it up on the screen right now. It'll just take me a moment. And I'm super excited for this.
Go ahead and tell you, I'm not the one. I'm not the man in red. I'm the little black figure off to the side. Just so start here.
You're the one on fire, not the one setting you on fire.
Slow-mo. Some nunchucks. I'm really good at nunchucks. Then I like the nunchucks on fire. Bam.
I mean, look at this. This is
skateboarding. Whoop! Knife on the stomach.
People are dropping knives on you for no apparent reason.
Oh, yeah. Trapeze. If you ever saw Death Proof, the stunt there. If you watch Ridiculousness, you probably saw the cans. It's going too fast to narrate here.
I know. This is a great video. Thank you for preparing it. Of course, it's amazing. This is all.
Whee!
I'm going to ask this question why this is playing, and it's going to come out wrong. So please, I apologize in advance. How do people not hear about you doing this and think, okay, you must have schizophrenia in order to want to do these things? You literally lit yourself on fire, jump out of a plane, wrestled alligators. I think that a reasonable person would think that there has to be mental illness involved. But of course, you work with many stunt people who have no mental illness whatsoever. So clearly that is not something that you need to have, but it seems like it.
And it's something I am very careful with. And I'll have so many people be like, oh, wow, you should really push that. You're a schizophrenic stunt girl. And it's not, because stunts, I've been through quite a bit of training, certifications. As you said, there's clips from actual stunt school there. And I never, ever film if I'm not 100%, because it is. And especially when you're dealing with stunts, it's not just about yourself. You could get other people hurt as well. So, yeah. The schizophrenia has nothing to do with me doing stunts. It's just part of my life, just like anything else. Although I will have to say, not crazy as in mental health crazy, but you do probably got to be a little crazy to set yourself on fire, but like the fun type.
One of the things that I'm gonna stop the screen share now. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. One of the things that I think that it's important to point out is obviously you are in all the videos. So you are not filming the videos. I was surprised to learn that your family members were filming the video. It was in the beginning of the clip, it's your father who set you on fire. And you've had your brother help you, your mother help you, your family has been in the audience during, many, many different things. And of course, the last thing that I want to say is you were in Marvel movies. Like, this is not just, and you showed stuff. Listen, I could talk about just your stunt career until I'm blue in the face, but are people surprised that you can both live with schizophrenia and be a stunt person, and that you have full support from your family?
Yes. I'll have people that are just shocked that I'm able to make videos. Like, whoa. And you'll if you scroll through my videos, you'll see comments like, oh, she can't be schizophrenic because she made this video. There's this misconception that, if you have a mental disorder, you're either drooling in the corner or you don't have it, and there are days when I'm like that. And there are days when I would say I'm perfectly fine. I don't know about the rest of the world would say I'm perfectly fine. I think I'm fine. So yeah, it's just like, I don't want to say compartmentalizing, but just like you, Gabe, you are a husband, you are a co-host, you're also the host of numerous podcasts, just different pieces of your life. I forgot what the question was, so I don't know.
You actually answered it very, very well. That
okay.
Just because you live with schizophrenia doesn't mean that you don't want to be certain jobs. And I think this is listen, being a stunt person is one. It's unique. Let's go with that. You are the only other stunt person that I know in the, like literally, I can't even name another stunt person's name. Like, that's how rare being a stunt person is. I can't even think of like a famous stunt person unless I go to like Evel Knievel. And that was very long ago. But I am surprised at the number of people that try to limit people who live with mental illness, especially, schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or psychosis, and say, well, this job isn't for you because it's too dangerous. And the reason that I'm saying this and really pushing it so far is because when I first met you and you were like, oh, I'm a stunt woman, at first I didn't believe you. I just thought, oh, well, you film yourself in your backyard. That doesn't make you a stunt woman. That makes you somebody with a video camera. And then you were like, well, no, I've done... you showed me some of the stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this seems really irresponsible. Like, who would let her do this? And then I realized that, and I'm a mental health advocate. I live with bipolar. Could you imagine if somebody walked up to Gabe Howard and said, oh, you live with bipolar, you're not allowed to do that? Oh my, I would go nuts. And then I thought it about you, and I thought, wow. This is a definite moment where I'm like, oh, I believe that people with mental illness can do everything. I meet somebody with mental illness who is doing something, and I'm like, I don't know. But that does lead me to my question. Do you have trouble getting hired? You are a well-known stunt person. You get hired a lot, and you're a well-known person living with schizophrenia. Does this scare insurance companies?
Shh. Don't bring up insurance companies. I mean, if you were to look at my resume, if I am submitting for a stunt job, I don't have schizophrenic listed at the top, So they would know it though if they looked, and easily Googling me, you're going to find that out pretty quickly. And it's not something that I hide. And I feel that if it is a situation where a job wouldn't hire me because of it, they're probably not going to come right out and say that. But I also wouldn't want to work there. That makes sense. Kind of what you were saying, not that you didn't believe me. You probably believed me, but you didn't trust me. And that's the thing. Just like, well, I don't know if I can hire Gabe to run this podcast to be the host because he's bipolar. Can I really trust a bipolar person?
Right.
And I think that's the root of it.
It's
Yeah. Can I really trust someone with schizophrenia to be in a stunt where there's glass flying, where they have to pay attention to know when to drop it at a specific time? Can I trust someone like this?
On one hand, I want to be very honest with the people that are watching. I thought I was like, this just seems so dangerous. What if she has an anxiety attack in the middle of a stunt? What if she? You told me that one of the ways that you manage stunts, and I'm going to butcher this, please do not try anything that Rachel did at home. But for the fire stunt, you could only be on fire for so long before you have to put it out. Well, that makes sense. I don't think so one of the things that you do mentally to prepare is figure out that time, whether you count, 10, 9, 8, okay, jump, and you have a spotter, etc. Well, what if you lose track of counting because you have racing thoughts like in bipolar? Or what if there's so many voices in your head, you don't hear your spotter yell time? And I just kept thinking, this is so incredibly dangerous. And there's so many things that could go wrong in a perfect system that maybe this is not for her. Do you remember what you told me when I brought all this stuff up?
No, of course not.
You told me that.
I didn't know we had this conversation.
Yeah, no. I remember it, and I'm sure you'll remember it as soon as I start saying. You said that it's not all on you. That's kind of the illusion of stunts. That people believe that a stunt is all on the stunt person, but there's all of these other people around, and they all have a role to play. And the reality is if you didn't count down and jump into the water to put yourself out, and then you ignored the spotter, people would jump on you and put you out. They're not going to just be like, oh, well, she didn't hear me say it, so
we just let her burn.
Yeah. But that was very interesting to me because it showed me that I had a basic misunderstanding of how the stunt industry worked. But I formed opinions based on that misunderstanding. And again, most people don't want to be stunt people. How many people are we deciding can't be regular everyday jobs because we have a basic misunderstanding of how those jobs work? Look, I don't get caught up in, discriminating or stigmatizing against, people with mental illness very often because I am an advocate, but you made me reevaluate everything I thought. And I think that makes you incredibly unique. Yeah. Can you, I want to move back to, I could ask you questions about, you were in Black Panther for Pete's sake. Like she was in Black Panther. Like how cool is that? And she's on the cutting room floor of like 10 other Marvel movies.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't make it in, but you got paid by them.
Yeah. I was there, I filmed, and they were like, no.
It happens. It happens. Back to schizophrenia advocacy. Do you find that being a stunt person opens doors for schizophrenia advocacy, for mental health advocacy? Do you meet the two together to be more effective, or in your mind, are they really just two separate things?
For such a long time, in my mind, it's been two separate things. And I feel that probably within just the past very few years that I've gotten more comfortable connecting the two and not being, I don't want to say afraid, but for so long, I didn't want to make schizophrenia look bad. I didn't want people to think, just on the surface, oh, schizophrenics do stupid stuff like this.
Right.
So it's kind of, it was weird, but even I was like, I don't want to make mental health, look bad. I was more scared about the stunts making, yeah, kind of. And so I've been slowly, I feel like I feel that I don't personally, in the stuff that I do, make it look bad. So I've come to terms with that a little bit better the past few years. So I would say I'm slowly moving towards that direction.
Well, I think it is very cool. And honestly, I think a keynote called I'm Schizophrenic and I Light Myself on Fire, but not because I'm schizophrenic. It's too long of a title,
It's a very long
but it's catchy. We have a question from Lisa McCabe. She asked if you're on Insta. She would love to follow her. I'm going to pop up your website as soon as I get done reading the question there. But are you on Insta?
I am on Insta. Rachel Star Live. That's what I am across everything. So if you want to find me, Rachel Star Live, there is one S in Star. And there's one R in Star also.
This is
Misspell
very
it
important.
and you get different people. That's just putting it out there. And there you will find someone else. And they do make videos also.
Yeah,
it's not. Who makes videos.
This is a family show.
Yeah.
Did you?
I'm warning the family members that when they walk in on their 10-year-old Googling my name and they're like, oh no, what has happened?
Rachel, obviously if you go to rachelstarlive.com, that's your website. All of those links are there as well, correct?
Again, one letter off and you're...
No, we just Rachel Star Live, one R. If you add that second R, it's just going to go haywire. Rachel, we have a question from a fan who watches a long time. I'm not sure if you will know the answer or not. One of the people say I accidentally found that out. You share a name with a famous adult actress. We'll just leave it at that. She also says thank you. I have a question from
adult also, but yes.
I said adult industry.
I missed the industry. Okay.
Yeah. So I have a question here. I'm not sure if you know the answer to it. I do. A long time watcher of the show. It did get cut off, so I'll read it for you. It says, in the USA, how many years does it take to be a psychologist? And is there any prospect for just graduate psychology students without having a PhD? Now, I know that that's not related to schizophrenia, but we know an awful lot about this world, and I thought that we would do our best to help out. I know the answer.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I could take a guess, but I don't want anyone.
Listen,
crafting their life career over Rachel's answer.
Yeah. First off, we want to be very, very helpful. We want to point out that Rachel and I are not doctors. We're not researchers. We're not PhD students, and we're also not professors. We don't run a university. And as anybody who's gone to college has learned, a 4-year degree can sometimes take 5 years to get, or there's always those people that go during the summer and get it in 3.5 years, or geniuses that get it in 3. So I think it's very, very important to understand that. But in general, you need a 4-year bachelor's degree. You need a 2-year, 2 to 3 year master's program, and then you need a 2-year PhD. So 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 8 to 10 years is about the average to get a PhD in America. Again, your results may vary depending on how many credits you take and things like that. As far as if you just have a master's degree, there's lots of jobs in psychology with just a master's degree. Most social workers, again, you do have to be licensed and have to have the correct degree and licensure, et cetera. But a lot of LISWs, which is licensed independent social workers, counselors, addiction counselors. There's lots of jobs in psychology that do not take a PhD. And many of our therapists don't have PhD. Psychologists do have PhDs and they make excellent therapists, but a lot of licensed social workers don't have the PhD and do great work. There you go. See, I helped you, Rachel. We've got more comments coming in. Why isn't it showing? It's not showing. I apologize that it's not doing what it's supposed to show. All right. Well, the comment is Rachel is a true role model for us all. Awesome to have a career without feeling the need to hide mental health issues on the side. Do you ever feel the need to hide the schizophrenia in your career?
I mean, I'm professional first. If I teach classes part-time for modeling and acting, and I don't lead the class with, hey, by the way, however, I am open about it because I know the students are going to Google me. I know that's going to happen. I literally tell them to, if you want to know my credentials, Google me. And if I am having a day where I'm feeling off or I worry, sometimes I won't realize that I'm kind of starting to slip mentally, and I'll realize because someone will be like, Rachel, you're talking really fast. And that's always the first key that okay, I'm probably, I need to take a step back. So I will be open and be like, hey, just so you guys know, I do have a mental disorder, so I'm struggling a little bit today with this class as far as getting some of my words out. I usually don't say, hey, guess what, everybody? I'm a schizophrenic. But yeah, I'll bring it up. And I always tell people this: if you have, any sort of mental disorder, when it comes to talking to your job about that, that's, 100% on you if you even feel they need to know. And you can also just leave it as, I have a mental disorder. You don't, have to flat out say what you have. My mom always stresses, because she used to be felt like she had to tell people if she had to leave work or something, like, oh my God, my daughter's having this psychotic. I'm like, just tell them I'm sick. First of all, they don't care. I was like, you don't have to open up this huge can of worms if you don't want to. But depending on your career, tread lightly. And again, it's up to you. You don't need to feel like you have to let everybody know. If I go to Walmart right now, I don't need to let the cashier know I have schizophrenia. I can, but I mean, she doesn't care.
It's interesting that of course this gets brought up, and one of the things that we talk about in mental health advocacy circles, of course, is that crisis is very public. There's just no way to hide a crisis. It's talked about a lot. It often happens, or not often, but it does happen in public, and then of course people discuss it, and on and on and on. But those of us who are living well, like you said, you're just at the grocery store. You're at the grocery store buying stuff, and you're not an example of a person living with schizophrenia at the grocery store buying stuff, minding your own business. You're just an example of a person. But if you had an issue at the grocery store, well, that would be very, very public, creating the idea in people's minds that people with schizophrenia only look a certain way, or people with mental illness only look a certain way. Is this one of the reasons that you're open to show people with schizophrenia doing things that are atypical from the crisis model?
I don't want it to sound like everything I'm doing is like, I'm doing this because, or I have a purpose. I feel that it's more so I'm just living a way that I feel I should be able to. I don't want to act like I'm trying to hide from something, or feel that I need to act a certain way. We all know how to behave in public kind of things. But I'm not also going to go out of my way to always, I don't know what I'm trying to say exactly, other than, I don't want people to think that, yeah, I have some sort of
I understand what you're saying.
I'm trying to make a point. No, I'm just trying to live my life in the best way for me and others.
I like it. We have Rena Huntington says, learning about yourself is so beneficial. I like teaching my students how we are all socially interactive in all ways. We're all different, but all people who want and need interaction. I thought that was very, very cool. And Carol has a question for you. She says that she is a person who lives with bipolar. How do you, Rachel, handle the voices?
So I always want to be upfront. I do have audio hallucinations. The majority of mine are ticking, clicking, scratching, really annoying stuff. One is just constant I'm dealing with. It's like I'm holding a wristwatch up to my ear, just this rap. Those will keep me up all night. So in the background, yeah, that white thing, that's a big air purifier. It's so loud. I sleep with that by my bed specifically to kind of help drown that sound out. I always have to have some sort of fan or white noise, and that helps me just kind of get past the annoyingness. The other voices I have that are more typical is I hear my name being called a lot, and I'll react. So, sometimes I live normally with my parents. Super cool, I know. But they were gone the other week, and I kept hearing the voices like there was someone home. And then I was like, oh, wait a second. I'm the only one here. Let me go investigate that first of all to make sure I don't have robbers who have just really made themselves at home upstairs. But also, just let me double check. I'm very lucky that I've never had a constant voice talking to me. So that, I guess, honestly, what you see in the movies a lot, I've never had, this constant voice screaming or, just talking to me.
And it's important to point out that everybody's symptoms, we tend to think of, like you said, I have audio hallucinations, you have audio hallucinations, so therefore we're the same, right? And one of the examples that I hear is it's like saying I ate dinner, you ate dinner, so we ate the same thing, right? And I always thought that was very good, because obviously if somebody assumed that we both had the same thing for dinner because we both ate dinner, you would think, well, why would you assume that? That doesn't make any sense. But yet in larger medical things, we're like, oh, I have bipolar and you have bipolar. We're exactly the same. I think it's important to point out. Rachel, I always appreciate your honesty. Raina says we need to learn how to interact in effective manners because we're all different. I think that you agree with that, right? Right, Rachel?
Yes.
I agree. Yeah. You're like, what is there a debate here? But it is shocking. Now, sincerely, this is, maybe you have not experienced this. I don't know, but I have noticed some pigeonholing. As a person with bipolar disorder, I'm expected to behave, act, or feel a certain way. And when I move outside of that norm, it makes people uncomfortable. Do you experience that, Rachel? Do people expect you to act a certain way simply based on all they know about you is that you live with schizophrenia? Do they expect you to look, act, talk, behave a specific way?
I assume so. No one's ever come right out and said that to me, but I'm sure, yeah.
Have your parents gotten any?
Very interesting answer.
No, it doesn't have to be interesting. It just has to be honest. I appreciate you telling me the truth and not just like making up. You can tell you're not running for any political office because you were just honest. You're like, that's not true. I'm running for alderman. I'm like, oh, what is an alderman? Like, that's my next question. What is an alderman? No, sincerely, have your parents ever gotten any pushback? Because again, in one of my favorite videos, your father is literally setting a woman with schizophrenia on fire. Has he ever gotten any pushback, or have you ever gotten any email about why are people enabling you, or is this a codependency type situation?
You would be the first one.
Your email is so nice. Like,
they're not nice, but they're not that well thought out. Let me put it that way.
Fair enough.
They're usually only a few words, and they're not words I can repeat.
Gotcha. Let's talk about constructive criticism that you've gotten online, because again, you've got 15 years worth of emails. Mm-hmm. What is the most constructive piece of criticism that you have ever received as a person, either living with schizophrenia or as an influencer in the mental health space?
This is something is actually coming out on our next episode that we have with Inside Schizophrenia. But a few years ago, I've dealt a lot talking about suicide and different things in my videos. And one of them, I was very, very direct, saying that, if someone is actively saying they're going to commit suicide, call 911. Call 911. And so many people reached out for me after that video saying that, no, that if you're a person of color, you pretty much, you're risking that person's life. And to me, that never occurred to me. And it was something that we spoke the other day, me and Gabe here, with another person of color who has a severe mental disorder, and she pretty much was saying the exact same thing. And it's just something that never ever occurred to me. And I do have to be careful because I don't want to come right out and give advice because everyone's situation is different. And it was something where a lot of kind of safety kind of falls on the person with the mental disorder, actually finding out, okay, what is my just like straight emergency, nonviolent emergencies like 411 or something, depending where you live at, the different numbers. And it just made me kind of rethink some of the stuff that that's a privilege that I've never really been realized,
It's everything that's going on in the world has taught me, just an incredible amount. We tend to think that while I always knew it was inequitable and unfair, before a lot of the events of the last few weeks, I thought that there were just like pockets of unfairness, but maybe things were closer. I don't know. It was like 49-51, and I know I'm sort of messing this up, but it's been scary to learn that the middle class version of mental health treatment is so much different than a lower class version. And that has nothing to do with race or gender. I'm just talking about the amount of money that you have when you get sick. I was very fortunate when I got sick because I have good parents and I had health insurance. I know you and I have talked, Rachel, that you were very fortunate when you got sick because you have good parents and good health insurance. And I wonder where we would be if we had no money, no health insurance, and no support system. Have you ever thought about, and I know it's just one of those hypotheticals, but have you ever wondered what would have happened to you if you didn't have resources and support?
I'll be the first to tell you, I am very, very lucky. I have an amazing family. My parents, they put up with so much over the years with me, especially so many years when they didn't know, why I was doing certain things, why I was acting certain ways. And they've just been absolutely incredible. And I don't really know if they were like even tomorrow to act more like, I guess, a stereotypical parent, I'm not sure what I would do. I can't live alone. I get really weird. I'm good for like a week or 2 or 3, and then I start getting squirrely. And I go downhill fast. So even just like living alone in an apartment, I could do it, but mentally it would be very bad for me. And they've always been awesome. And it's just, they've never made me feel bad about, every time I've had to come back, they've been like, yes, get back here. My dad loves me living with them. And that's just amazing. And I know that's something that so many people don't have. Like they just don't have that kind of support system or they don't get along, there's issues, or even there's not enough room. You can have family that absolutely loves you, but we don't have room for you.
It's so incredibly complicated. And one of the things that's frustrating is the people who know it's complicated and are in the position to do something about it are often doing very little. And the people who don't realize that it's complicated aren't helping us get it to change. So there's really a very small portion of America that understands that there's an issue here. So I understand why politicians are ignoring it because, again, the majority of people don't realize how bad the mental health safety net is. But of course, once you need that net, that's when it becomes readily apparent it's not available. And by then it's too late. I liken it to buying smoke detectors or wearing a seatbelt. None of this stuff matters until it does. And then it's too late. So hopefully, doing stuff like this and talking openly will help more people understand that it's beneficial to our society. It could be beneficial to them or somebody that they love. We're almost out of time here, Rachel. People apparently love Instagram. I don't know what happened here, but how do people find you one more time on Instagram and the web?
Rachel Star Live. And that's whether if you're pulling up Facebook, Twitters, Instagrams, or .com or YouTube. That's it. I don't have TikTok. Sorry.
No TikTok. Rachel, that is my final question. What is TikTok?
Well, I used to, every time someone would ask me, I'd be like, I don't have TikTok, I'm not a child. But now there's so many celebrities and like grown-ups on it that I'm like, fine. But no, I'm still not joining. I can't handle all these social medias.
Can't handle one.
It's too many. There's too much social.
Rachel,
I can only be so social.
You are super honest. Thank you for taking the time to be here. This whole thing is sponsored by the Psych Central podcast, which you can grab at psychcentral.com/show or the Psych Central podcast on your favorite podcast player. Obviously, check out Inside Schizophrenia, another really cool Psych Central podcast. And you can get that at psychcentral.com/is or again, Inside Schizophrenia on your favorite podcast player. And of course, last but certainly not least, you should go to Rachel's website, which is rachelstarlive.com. All the links to her Facebook, YouTube, Insta, all of that stuff is there. And, keep refreshing it because if she ever does get TikTok, right there it will be. Rachel, wave everybody out.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. It was lovely semi-meeting you.